Good evening. We are today going to go into the introduction of Tanya, and here it's a very interesting introduction. As I explained many times, the introduction of a book has a big part of the book encapsulating the introduction. But here the Alter Rebbe deals with something very, very interesting, and that is as follows. The Alter Rebbe says, "Hi, welcome. Perfect timing. Come inside." No problem. The Alter Rebbe writes like this, and he says that he struggles with a big issue, and the issue that he struggles with is that on one hand, his goal is really to help us, and he's a leader, and he's here to help people, inspire people. But what is the struggle? The struggle is as follows. People would come from all over the world to visit the Alter Rebbe, to seek his guidance and to seek counseling in better ways to serve God. And here he's getting ready to write a book, so he addresses the struggle that he has, and that is what one can do in a face-to-face meeting, you can't compare to something that's written down in paper. And therefore, he struggles, should he write down his ideas and thoughts in a book, or should he keep it to the one-on-one private audience? But in this struggle, he deals with a few components, which is in itself a class in itself, and which we'll talk about today. And what he says is like this, that when a person reads a book, so you're limited. You're limited based on your mental capabilities. You're limited based on your understanding of the book. And you're also limited the way you view life. Because everyone could, you can have 10 people read the same book and everyone will walk away with a different message.
And
why?
You can't ask questions of the author.
And you can't ask questions of the author. Now, so when he discusses this, he brings up something very, very profound, which is really an eye-opener to a lot of things in life, and that is as follows. He says, why is it that when many people will read the same book, everyone will come up with something else? Right? So in other words, so if you're looking, let's say, for advice, and you read a book, everyone's going to come, but why is that so? So he explains like this, and he explains it based on powerful Kabbalistic teachings, that it's known that we all, every one of us, on one hand, God created every one of us, but on the other hand, we're all unique and we're all different. So how can it be that God created human being, so many human beings, that everyone is unique? On one hand, we're all the same, on one hand, we're all unique. So he explains it based on a concept as follows. That every one of us were created by God, but what God used to create us human beings, and the world as well, but we're talking about human beings right now, he used something which is called the 10 Sefirot. Now, what are the 10 Sefirot? The 10 Sefirot, yes, we have a chart on the wall. The 10 Sefirot are basically channeling infinite energy into a finite human being, and to create different specific types of energy, intellectual, emotional, and functional energies. And they go under the category of 10 Sefirot. Now, we're going to go through the 10 Sefirot because what he explains is that depending on everyone's makeup of the strength of each one of the different 10 Sefirot, that's what your spiritual personality is going to be. So in other words, before we get into it, generally speaking, if you're right-oriented, you're going to have a right slant. If you're left-oriented, you're going to have a left slant. And if you're center-oriented, you're going to have a center slant. Now, what does that mean practically? So to take you into the back room, what does it mean right, left, and center? So the Alter lays out, and we have the chart on the wall, the 10 Sefirot. Now, the 10 Sefirot, there are times when it starts with Keser and Das is not in there, and there's times when it starts with Chachma and Das is in there. But let's use, for today, we're going to use where Das is in the Sefirot. So the 10 Sefirot would be Chachma, Bina, and Das. Chachma would be on the right, Bina would be on the left, and Das would be centered. That's in the intellectual Sefirot, and we'll explain them. And then you have the emotional Sefirot, which is Chesed, Givura, and Tiferes. Chesed being on the right, Gevura being on the left, and Tiferes being centered. And then in the functional Sefirot, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. Netzach being on the right, Hod on the left, and Yesod being centered. And then it comes down to the last centered Sefirah, which is Malchut. So there's 3 on the right, 3 on the left, and there's 4 in the center. Now, let's do an overview of what the Sefirot are, and we'll soon see what does it mean to be right-left oriented. So let's start with the first Sefirah. The first Sefirah, the raw Sefirah, is Chachma. What does that mean, Chachma? That means like this. Every person has Chachma. On a scale from 1 to 10 or 1 to 100, 1 to a million, there's obviously a bar of how much we have of that. But we all have Chachma. It might be a half a point, but everyone has Chachma. Some people might have 100. What is Chachma? Chachma, again, is right-oriented. Chachma is the ability to have ideas flowing. Ideas. Just ideas. You have a problem, you go to a Chacham, and matter of fact, the people are called a Chacham. For this reason. What's a Chacham? Chacham is you have a question, you have a concern, and you don't have an answer. So if you go to a Chacham, he'll stop popping out answers. Doesn't necessarily mean they'll all be correct. Doesn't mean they'll all make sense. It doesn't mean everything's going to resonate with you. But a Chacham is somebody, you come to it with questions, boom, he can pop out answers. Not a mashpia. Again, we're talking right now about a Chacham. Let's use the term Chacham. Let's not use the word mashpia, because mashpia means mashpia, Chacham means Chacham. All right? Let's not mix. On Shabbos we have cholent, we put all the ingredients, we have cholent. When we talk Chachma, we're talking Chachma. We're not talking mashpia. Mashpia is another word. Let's stay focused on the word. It's a good word, but it has nothing to do with Chachma. I'm not saying a mashpia doesn't have Chachma, but we're talking about the word Chachma as you're going to a Chacham. So a raw Chacham is somebody. For example, a doctor also has Chachma, but we're not talking about doctors now, and so on and so forth. We're talking about Chachma. We're talking about the raw Sefirah. Otherwise, we're not going to know what the raw Sefirah is. So the raw Sefirah is what? Is Chacham. Chachma.
He has the answers.
Like this. Ask him details, he doesn't know. Again, we're talking about the raw Sefirah of Chachma. So the raw Sefirah of Chachma is, you have a question, he'll start popping out ideas, answers, etc. And they're flashes. He might forget 3 minutes later what the first answer was, because maybe yeah, maybe not. But the point is that they're ideas. Now, that is somebody, as you'll see in the big picture at the end, that's right-oriented. Knocking out ideas. So you see it's from the right, which is usually the giving side. See, right's giving, you have a question, he's not holding back. He'll give you all the answers. Sometimes the answers you don't want to hear, but you'll still get the answers. Okay. On the left, in the world of intellect, we're still in the world of intellect, is something which is called Bina. Bina, again, in the raw sense of the word, let's say somebody's 100% Bina, 0 Chachma. So just to get a glimpse, an idea of what Bina is. So Bina is somebody, you ask him for questions, he doesn't have the answer. I don't know. But what happens if you have an answer? But you want to be able to really understand the answer, comprehend it? So he'll be able to give you a 2-hour speech. Wasn't his idea. I'm giving you obviously an extreme case where one person is the Chachma, one person is the Bina. He will be able to give you a 2-hour explanation on the concept about the speech and so on and so forth. Ask him something that ask him a question that he doesn't know, he won't know the answer. But if you give him data, he'll be able to break it down to you, he'll be able to explain it to you, he'll be able to create a PowerPoint presentation with all the details and all the examples and so on and so forth. So Bina is basically, he doesn't have new ideas, but he has something, he'll be able to dissect it. Okay, but they're a team. You see how they're a team? Because Chachma needs Bina, and Bina needs Chachma. See how God made it? The Chacham, with all his ideas, ain't going too far. He needs his partner Bina to develop it. Bina, he can develop all day long, but if Chacham is not feeding him data, what is he developing? So you see the way they're intertwined? Okay. So that's right, that's left. Then you have the center of the intellect. And what is that? Das. What is das? In the world of intellect still, very simple. You have an idea, you have all the details. Okay, what am I supposed to do with this information? Great idea. I got it. And therefore?
How do I act on it?
No, we're not talking act. No, we're still talking the world of intellect. Das is the ability to take the idea, take the details, and make it work. Oh. Apply it to the emotion, to the reality, whatever it may be. He's able to give you, and therefore, this is your end product. In other words, you have a problem, the Chacham will give you a solution. Okay? The Bina will tell you all the details of it, and the Das will tell you how to actually connect all the dots together and make it work. It's almost like dot. He's able to connect the dots. Okay, so that is the world of Chachma, Bina, Das. Again, right, left, center, and we'll soon see, as we go through all the Sefirot, you'll see how it all comes together. That's in the world of intellect. Now, we're going down to a whole new world. We're leaving the world of intellect, which is data, information, cold. Now we're going into the world of emotions. Right. What's on the right? The emotion on the right. Chesed. So what's chesed on the right? And you'll see the way it all goes through vertically. Chesed is someone that whatever you have an issue, he's here to help. Chesed, by definition, is someone that's a giver. He's always there to give. Now, but again, raw giving. No holding back. No holding back, just giving, giving, giving. Now, what does that mean practically? What does that mean practically? You ask him for something? Yes, sure. Yes, sir. No problem, with pleasure. You ask him to help you? With pleasure. A child asks for a knife? Sure, no problem. That's chesed. That's the raw midah of chesed. A teenager that's drunk asks the dad for the keys to the car. If the dad is raw chesed, here's the keys to the car. Kid asked. I gave.
He can't say no.
We're not talking, no.
He can't not give.
Chesed is giving. If I have it, it's yours. You're hungry? Here, I'll feed you. You're drunk and you need another drink? No problem. Here's another drink. That's the rule.
Where these people live?
There are plenty of them. Yes. Okay, 1 second. So chesed again, chesed, the raw midah of chesed is what? Giving. Now you see the way chesed and chachma have something in common? Chachma is ideas, and chesed is also, it's giving. They're both giving. On the left, oriented, you have something which is called what? Gevura. Gevura. What is gevura? Every question, no. And then I'll think about it. So you ask someone that's on the left side, gevura is no, unless you give me a good reason why yes. So their default answer of gevura is, the answer is what? No.
No.
Maybe, if you give me a good reason and you whatever, maybe I'll change my mind. But default of a gevura is no. Default of gevura is, it has to fit into the box. If it's not exactly that, no. Okay. So you see the way gevura and bina line up? Bina has to analyze. Gevura has to make sense. Then maybe yes. You see what I'm saying is? Because in bina there's a holdback. There's no new data. It's just analyzing it. And gevura again is in the box. No, unless there's a good reason, follows the same line. What is Tiferes? Tiferes, if you have chesed, right, you're giving. So the pros with giving is you're giving. The con is that you're giving too. Gvura, what's the pro of gvura? You're not going to be giving a kid a knife. You're not going to be giving a drunker some extra alcohol. You're not going to be giving a teenager that's drunk the keys to their car, right? So that's a good thing. But on the other hand, when someone really needs help, you're going to think 20 times whether you should help him. You want the guy will faint in front of you because he hasn't eaten in 3 days. So there's pros and cons with gvura. Chesed is not great. It's not good and bad. Chesed is just giving. Gvura is not good and bad. It's just restriction. So either one is really imbalanced. Comes along Tiferes, which is a misunderstanding. People think it's like a balance. Tiferes is its own Sefirot. It's not a mix. It's not Chesed. It's not Gvura. Tiferes is, it's called beauty. But what is Tiferes? Tiferes is the ability to put yourself in the other person's shoes In English, I think it's called
Empathy.
empathy. Be empathetic. So in other words, someone comes to you and say, listen, hey, I haven't eaten. So you put yourself in the other person's shoes. If it's coming from real hunger, the person's hungry, and the person didn't really eat, no problem. You give them just like you would give yourself. If the person is a drunker and he wants another bottle of vodka and he's going to kill himself, you put yourself in the shoes, you wouldn't kill yourself, why would you kill the guy? So you would reach out to him from an empathetic place and say, I would love to give it to you. I really would, but I wouldn't give it to myself either if I was in your position. So Tiferes is the power to put yourself in someone's shoes. So this is obviously back to Das, which is basically connecting the dots and making it work. Tiferes is extreme, as you can tell, all the middle spheres are extremely powerful. So in other words, what is Tiferes? The power to put yourself in someone's shoes. And when you put yourself in someone's shoes, what happens? What's the decision? It's always going to be the best decision. It's coming from a place of empathy to a place of empathy, and the person will accept it, whatever the answer is, if it's yes or no, or if it's in between.
I have a little levity that you reminded me of.
Okay.
This guy walks up to a Yiddish mom and says, I haven't eaten in 3 days. And she says, force yourself.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the world of emotions. We'll give you the full picture and we'll get back to it. Then you have the functional emotions, which is basically called Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. What is Netzach? Netzach is the power, an extreme emotional power, to be victorious. In other words, the ability to say, we're going to make it through. We're going to be successful against all odds. Now, that's a powerful emotion, but you can be successful in destroying someone too. Again, it's the raw midah of we're going to succeed. You can succeed in destroying somebody, and you can succeed in being successful. But you see how it lines up on the right side, where it's the giving. Okay, let's make it work, right? Let's make it happen. Then you have on the left, Hoid, which is basically the ability to say thank you, to acknowledge someone did something for you. So again, that's already a calculated thing. You did something for me, thank you. You didn't do, no thank you. Again, on the left.
Gratitude.
Gratitude, on the left side. And Yesod, which is actually translated as foundation, but that's the ability to connect with another human being on a physical plane in a real way. A physical, intimate connection, whether it's between a husband and wife or two friends that are connected and bonded and are there for each other, whatever is needed emotionally, physically. But the Yesod is the ability to connect to another person in a real, deep, meaningful way. And again, you see the way it's part of the center column.
But also it can be vulnerable if you're intimate.
No, we're talking about the raw aspect of being able to connect to another person.
Okay.
Now, what is Malchus? So Malchus is an interesting sefira. According to Kabbalah, Malchus basically, you know what Malchus is? Huh? It's called kingship. That's the translation.
Yes.
Malchus really is an empty vessel. What does that mean? It's the basket of everything, and that's what you use to communicate and to convey who you are to another human being. And in order really to do that, so Malchus requires you have to be empty. You have to be like an empty vessel. You have to be humble. So the more humble you are, the more you're able to receive what you have and give it over, and person will be willing to accept it if you're humble. If you're arrogant, how can you give something over? So Malchus is the ability to humble yourself, and this way you're able to give over to other people. Okay. Now, based on this analogy of the Sefirot, so the Alter Rebbe is like this. Every single human being, we all have the 10 Sefirot. However, to keep it simple, on a scale from 1 to 10, some people can be right-oriented. That means, let's say, all the right Sefirot are lighting up, and a 10 to 10, 10 out of 10. On the left, it's, let's say 0, not 0, let's say a half a point on each, in the middle also. So what happens, before we get to what happens, so that's one option. The other option, you can be left-oriented. 1 to 10, on left, boom. You're a 10 everything, and the middle and the right, you're close to a 1.
You need to be balanced.
1 second. Or you can be in the middle, 10 on the middle, and 0 on the sides. I'm giving you extreme cases. But then you can have a total different mix. A little from this, a little from that, and so on and so forth. And the reality is, not only could you have a mix, but as you go through life, guess what happens? You alternate. Absolutely. Even though you were born Everyone's born with a certain code. A certain code. And it could be, after all, you're dealing with 10 Sefirot. So every one of those could have a different level. So everyone has their unique code. And based on your unique code, that's who you're going to be.
Oh, God prepares us a little bit.
But then things happen to you.
One second. Correct. 1 second. We'll get to the change in a second. But everybody's born with a certain code. Everybody's born with a certain code. Whatever the code is, and everyone's code is unique. Everyone's code is unique. Now, what happens, because everyone's code is unique, so what happens if you go to a scholar and you say, I want to ask you a question. I'm struggling with this issue, spiritually, what do you say? Or, it could be, let's say, let's make a practical analogy before we get to the spiritual stuff. Let's say, for example, there's a question whether a certain animal is kosher or not. What does that mean? When they slaughtered it, whether the inside there was a hole in the intestines and so on and so forth. There's questions. It's not black and white. If it was treif, you would know it's treif, and if it's kosher, you know it's kosher. But there's certain issues that it's a gray area, and you have to go and you need to find out the facts and so on and so forth.
So you ask him.
You ask a rabbi, right? So the Alter Rebbe says like this: if you have a rabbi that's right-oriented, he's a kind man, correct? So he's going to be inclined naturally, based on his spiritual DNA, to find a way that, and he's not going to go against Jewish law. If it's treif, it's treif. We're talking an area where it's gray, and you can, he has to make a decision based on gray areas.
But it has to make sense.
Again, you can't go against Jewish law. But we're talking on areas where it's debatable. And there's many areas in Jewish law where 2 rabbis, or maybe 3 or 4, they can have different opinions about a certain situation because, again, it's a gray area. Again, areas where it's kosher, there's no question. Where it's treif, it's no question. Where it's permissible, it's fine. Where it's not, we're talking gray areas. So if you go to a rabbi who's basically let's analyze this. If you go to a rabbi who's right-oriented, and he's more of a kind person, what is he going to naturally try to do? Naturally, subconsciously. Figure out a way that's kosher.
To appease.
No, not to appease. No, not to appease. That would be dishonest. He will naturally, because of his disposition to be kind, he will naturally try to find a way that legally, according to Jewish law, it's kosher. That's going to be, and he's going to work hard at it. Whether he has to study or do some research or discuss or maybe go and take effort, he's going to somehow figure out try to make it kosher. Why? A few reasons. Because he's a kind person, so A, he doesn't want you to lose money. You went and you bought a cow. Let's say you bought the cow, cost you $1,000. If it's kosher, you'll get a premium for it. If it's treif, you'll lose money on it. He doesn't want you to lose money for no reason. Not that God forbid. Again, make it clear. He would never make something that's non-kosher kosher. That's not the question. But in a gray area, why would he want you to lose money? That's point number 1.
Try hard.
Point number two, which is even deeper. What does it mean when we say an animal is kosher and non-kosher? What does that mean?
Clean.
What is it? Clean. Okay. What does it mean when we say an animal is kosher and non-kosher? So in Hebrew, what's the Hebrew term for kosher? Is a term. What is the Hebrew term for something an animal is kosher and non-kosher? So the Hebrew term is asur, which means forbidden, and mutter means permissible. Now, what does mutter mean, permissible? It's mutar. Now, actually, if you want to get technical, what does mutar mean? It's free. It's untied. It's not tied up. Asur means it's tied up, like lockdown. So what does that mean? Something's locked down and something's free. What does that mean in the world of kashrut? So in the world of kashrut, it means like this. God created us human beings, and he created animals, and he instructed us in the Torah to slaughter them and eat them. Now, what right do we have to eat an animal? Obviously, God told us. But why? Why does he want us to eat it? So this is another class in itself. But for right now, why does God want us to eat it? It's very simple. Because we have the power to transform ourselves. How do we have the power to transform ourselves? because we can study Torah, we can do mitzvot, and we can pray, and we can do wonderful things. So therefore, by studying Torah and doing mitzvot and praying and being kind, we actually elevate ourselves. Elevate, not our godly soul is elevated, but elevate our animal soul. Now, because we have the power to elevate, so therefore we have the power to elevate what? Everything we eat. Everything we eat. So if you, for example, have dinner and you eat chicken or meat or whatever it may be, whatever you're eating, and then you go and study Torah, and then you go and do a mitzvah, and then you go and pray. So not only are you elevating the animal soul, you're actually elevating the food that you ate. So as God told us in the Torah, you're a light unto the nations. What does that mean? Our job is to bring light into our life, in the world, and in every single kingdom, the animal kingdom as well. Now, because we have the power to elevate, so God instructed us what animals we could elevate and what we can elevate. In other words, if an animal's kosher, and it was slaughtered properly, and it was koshered properly, and you have the final product, what does that mean? That means mutar. Mutar means it's not bound up, it's free, it's open. You have the power when you eat that, and you pray, and you study, and you do mitzvot, you'll elevate that.
You elevate it, and it elevates you.
Correct. Okay. That's what mutar means. What does asr mean? Asr means it's bound up. Bound up means, technically means it's forbidden to eat it. But why is it forbidden? Because it's bound up in the world of klipa, in the world of opposite of holiness. That means if you ate that, you know what's going to happen? You're not going to be able to pull it. You're not going to be able to elevate it. And if you can't elevate it, it's going to downgrade you. It's like, for example, let's say you eat certain foods. Certain foods, the body has the power to digest. We digest it, and it gives us healthy energy. And the part that's no good, it goes into waste. But there are certain foods that you eat, you can't digest. The body cannot physically digest certain foods. So what happens if you can't digest it? It makes you sick. So that's on a physical level. On a spiritual level, it's the same thing. Things that are forbidden, you don't have the power to elevate. So if you're going to eat it, you know what's going to happen?
It makes you sick spiritually.
Spiritually. There you go, bingo. It'll make you sick spiritually, bingo, exactly. So now, therefore, if you go to a rabbi who's inclined from a kind place, and if the animal's forbidden, so it's not even a question. If it's permissible, you didn't come to him. But the rabbi gives a look and he says, oh my gosh, A, what I said before, he doesn't want you to lose money. B, if this animal could be elevated, why would I say it's forbidden, that it can't be elevated? Now I'm going to have an animal out there upset at me. You think it's a joke?
No, I'm just...
It's not a joke.
Yeah,
There's a story.
It's a joke.
They came to a rabbi,
It's just the animal.
and they said to him, there was a discussion about a cow, whether it's kosher or not. And there was a debate. Some people said yes, some people said no. And actually one of the leading rabbinical authorities, who's a shach, said it's forbidden. And there's others who feel that it's okay. So they came to this rabbi and they said to him, this cow that, there was a big debate. You're the one who gave the final ruling. And the final ruling you said it's permissible to eat. But we know all the leading commentators, the shach, for example, says, you know how to eat it. So how did you go ahead and say it's permissible? So the rabbi said like this, after 120, I'm going to go to heaven. So what's going to happen? So the grand rabbi, the shach, is going to come to me and say, have an argument with me. Hey, I said it's forbidden, and you said it's permissible. So fine, we'll have a Talmudic discussion. Either I'll win or I won't win, but somehow we'll come to the middle of something. And I'm okay with that. Because it's okay to have a halach discussion with any other rabbi. I didn't just go ahead and pick it out of my hat. I had a good reason, halachically, why I said what I said, and I'm okay with that. But I don't want, when I come to heaven, to have a fight with the cow. And I don't want the cow coming saying, look, I was living there in that world. I was really kosher. I could have been elevated. And because of you, no one elevated me.
No, I'm a Hindu.
I don't want to have in heaven a fight with a cow. In other words, back to the point. So a rabbi that's compassionate, or a rabbi that's right-oriented, wants to make you happy. He doesn't want you to lose money, if he can, legally. doesn't want the cow to have a fight with him later because he could have been elevated. So he's going to try to find a way to do what? To figure out how it should be kosher, if he can. And he probably will if he works hard at it.
I love that story.
You like it? On the other hand, if someone is left-oriented and his first response is no, right? No. So you come to him, will say, is it kosher? No. Meanwhile, maybe if he did research, it wouldn't be no. But because he's left-oriented, no. So meanwhile, you lost money, and maybe you didn't have to lose it. B, this cow could have been elevated, now it's not elevated. So in other words, here you have two different worlds. If you go to someone that's right-oriented, you can have one answer based on his right orientation. And if you go to someone that's left-oriented, you can have a different answer. And if you go to someone in the middle, he'll be compassionate with you. He'll make you feel good. But we don't know if you'll end up having, you know what I mean? You might have the answer to the right or to the left or somewhere in between. So the Alter Rebbe says like this. So what happens is, so that I gave you an example in a halacha question, right? What happens spiritually speaking? In other words, you're struggling spiritually. Struggling spiritually. We all have struggles, spiritual struggles. We're trying to get closer to God. We're trying to live more of a peaceful life, a happy life, more of a kind life, right? And we have our inner struggles and our external struggles. So you come to a mentor, right? A spiritual mentor. Mm-hmm. So the Alter Rebbe says, if the rabbi, the mentor, the Kabbalist is right-oriented, he's going to take you in with love. He'll make you feel good. He'll warm you up to God. And he'll bring you in to God. And what's going to happen? God's going to be beautiful. God's going to be sweet, and you're going to have a great experience with God. And you're going to grow spiritually, and you have a beautiful life. Why? Because you got someone that brought you in. And the only reason why he's able to bring you in because he's right-oriented. And he was overflowing with chesed. He was overflowing with compassion for you. Wonderful. But what happens if this rabbi, who got himself a job to be a rabbi and is a Kabbalist, and he knows the Kabbalah and everything, but he's left-oriented, and you come to me and tell him about your struggles, and he goes, what? You did that? And you feel like, oh my gosh, you want to bury yourself in the ground, right? Even though he's right, you did do something wrong. But based on his approach, and based on his spiritual DNA, that he's left-oriented, and he'll lash out on you, he'll kill you on the spot spiritually. You never want to have a relationship with God. You think this God is this like angry God that just wants perfection. You got it?
But if he's really a Kabbalist, he isn't going to be, he's going to know and he's going to have the balance.
But again, our DNA is our DNA.
Right.
God created people some people are right-oriented, some people are left-oriented. And it was like this.
Doesn't have ideas and can't help you. That's what
some people are right-oriented, and I'm giving you extreme cases, obviously, for the conversation. I'm giving you for the
spiritual part. I see the balance.
Okay, I'm giving you the extreme case. Obviously, there's many in between. The point is, you can study. Let's say whoever you are, that's who you are right now. And we'll talk about what Emily brought before about change. We'll get to change in a minute. But you are who you are. That means if you're a right-oriented person, whatever you're going to read, you're going to find the positivity. You're going to find the giving aspect in there. You're going to find the love in there. That's the lens you're wearing. You're wearing a lens of positivity. That's who you are. You're right-oriented. But on the other hand, if you're left-oriented, you can read the same thing. And you're not coming from a bad or mean place. But by your definition, you're more into awe and fear. It's not bad and good, by the way. And by the way, someone that's soul root is awe and fear and left-oriented, he'll like a disciplined rabbi. He's not going to have to handle such a weak, soft rabbi. You know what I mean? Not every teacher is meant for every student.
Right.
Not every teacher.
More control.
Absolutely. Certain people need that and want that and are looking for that. And we'll only accept someone that's really strong and rigid and powerful. Okay. So the Alter Rebbe says, so because you have different types of people in the spiritual DNA, so if you write a book and then you go discuss it with someone, depends who you end up with. You can end up with someone that's right-oriented and left-oriented. So therefore, the Alter Rebbe says,
what do you do?
What do you do in that case? So therefore, he says, he's writing the book, and he hopes that when you go to seek someone for advice, you seek for someone that studied the book of Tanya, and studied Chabad mysticism, studied Alter Rebbe, and the reason is because someone that studied mysticism, someone that studied the Chabad philosophy, we all know that the purpose of mysticism is for one thing or one thing only. Well, many things, but in this case is to what?
To help you live practically.
No.
No?
No. No. To change the nature of your DNA that you were created with. That means when you study mysticism, when you study Chassidut, you first of all get to know who you are. You get to know the picture of all the Sefirot, and you know what Chesed is, you know what Gevurah is, Tiferes, Netzchot, Yisod, Malchut, and you get to know spiritually who you are. Now, you take a good hard look at yourself, and you go, oh my gosh, this is who I am. Okay, I'm not changing overnight. You have to be realistic. But let me start working on, from too much left, let me bring it into the middle. Too much right, which is also, let me try to bring it into the middle. And you work on yourself. So someone that basically is searching, and as the Alter Rebbe said, someone that basically has questions. In other words, the Alter Rebbe says that you know what the worst enemy of somebody that wants to change? And someone wants to work on themselves?
Resistance to it.
No.
Change.
No, that's down the road.
No.
The first enemy is thinking you know everything. If you have no questions, why are you changing? How are you going to change? Life is good. So someone, the ABC, the Aleph, the first letter of anyone that wants to become a spiritually empowered human being, wants to work on himself, first things you have to have questions. You got to have questions. What's a basic, simple question?
I have a question.
Yeah, we all have many questions. That's good. What's the basic question?
Can I change
Who am
what
I?
was born with?
Who am I? How can I have a better relationship with God? How can I have more love in my life? How can I have more simcha in my life? How can I be really, really, genuinely happy? Now, these questions remain. You know why these questions remain? Because as happy as you are, could you be happier? Absolutely. As much as you love God and you love human beings, could you love them more? Yes, these things are infinite. As much as you study Torah, will you ever know it all? No, you always want to know more.
The more you learn, the less you know.
So the more you study, the more you want to know. So somebody that's asking questions about who they are spiritually, and someone that's searching, when you come to them, you think they have answers? No, they have more questions. But the two of you together will go on the journey. See, if you go to somebody and you ask him a question, he gives you the answer, wrong teacher.
You try.
Because life is a journey. Life is constantly changing. It's very complicated because the person you were yesterday is hopefully not the same person you're today. And the person you're today is not going to be the same person you're going to be tomorrow. In other words, like this. But I just want
The
to.
answer can keep changing.
I wanted to two things. Point number one is I want to say is several years ago I was in Israel. All the power, the Kabbalistic powers in Israel. I'm always searching questions, right, for people that are searching well as well. So I met a very holy Jew in Israel, very, very heavy into mysticism, specifically Chabad mysticism. And he's taken the Sefirot and he's researched it into colors and shapes. Every single sphere, I gave you the overview. Every single sphere has different colors. Every single sphere has different shapes.
Different vibration.
In vibration, exactly, yes. So he created a chart. And I took the test. It was phenomenal. He took a chart. He gives you a sheet of paper, and it's designed like the outline of the Sefirot. So he has different colors by each sphere, and different shapes by each sphere. And then you write down what colors you like, and what shapes you like. And when you're done, he has an overlay, and he marks it, and he tells you exactly who you are spiritually I did it with my son. We were blown away. It was exactly to the T.
Can you get that?
I haven't been in contact with him in a while, but it's a fascinating. Then what he created was, then what he did was, based on who you are, he gave you spiritual exercises to do. So the point I'm making is, so if once, if you really want to know who you are, you have to analyze every one of the Sefirot within you, and be honest. Am I more leaning a chesed type of person? I'm more of a gvura. And then once you know who you are, then you say, okay, fine. You know what? I want more of this. This I have to fine tune. This I have to, this I have to fix up a little. This I have to, maybe backtrack a little. And guess what? You can go through your whole life fine tuning it because the parts are always moving. You have to realize you have 10 parts that are moving, and they're constantly moving. So if you worked on, let's say, a certain sphere today, but now you messed up the whole other apple cart because each one connects to the other. So let's say, for example, you were heavily weighted on chesed, and you bring it back, but now you have to work on the other ones and so on. And when you finish the other one, you got to get back to this one. So it's a whole life journey of questions, and trying to really being honest and working this thing out. But once you work it out, guess what? For today, it's okay. Tomorrow's a new day. That's why we pray every single day 3 times a day, and we study Torah, and that's why we meditate. Why? To be in check who we are right now, and constantly work on ourselves. Again, because the parts are moving.
That's why I love those guys with the sign, the end as you know it is coming. Well, it happens every day.
That's
Correct.
right.
Correct.
And a new beginning.
Yes.
So that's point one I wanted to say. The second point I wanted to say was about what happens as you change, you make different decisions. So actually, in the spiritual journey, you're always discussing with people practical applications of this type of area. So I have a friend of mine who, religious man, and his son went through a journey and decided to explore different areas of his life. He became unreligious. And then, as we know, the wheel always turns, and then he became back religious again. So he became back religious again. He was a single boy. So his dad tells him, I think, it's time. You should really look into, getting a shidduch, getting engaged. So he says to his dad, he wants to go to Israel to study for a year. So his dad says, fine, get engaged, get married, and go to Israel, study for a year. So he told his dad like this, that the girl that I'm going to pick in a year from now is not going to be the same girl I would pick now.
He knew.
He knew. I'm going to yeshiva for a year to study. It's not academics. I'm not going to study academics. I'm going true to academics as well. But I'm going to figure out who I am, perfect myself, transform myself. So the person I'm now is not going to be the same person in a year. So why would I pick someone today that I'm going to live my rest of my life with based on who I'm now, and I know it's going to change? Now, even though it's constantly changing, but you change with the person. You both change, and you both, etc. But this is going to be too much of a change. It's not fair to put it on somebody without, why get involved in a relationship with someone when I know there's going to be a drastic change that they're not up to, and they're going to judge me based on my past and so on and so forth. Okay, so you see that everyone really is different, and it's constantly changing. It's constantly changing. So based on that, the Alter Rebbe comes along and he says, what's really important is to find a mentor, but find a mentor by someone that is also in a search. And it's interesting that the Rebbe once instructed, everyone should get themselves a mentor. Mentor. So he says, how do you know if the mentor's for you? So the Rebbe said like this. No. The Rebbe said as follows. He said that that your teacher should be compared to an angel of God. Angel of God. So he says, okay, so how do you know it's angel of God? He says, very simple. You have to look. If to you, this person looks like the angel of God, he can be a teacher. If not, not. So ultimately, who's the judge? You're the judge. In other words, the Alter Rebbe says over here in the introduction of Tanya, that he quotes from Proverbs, from King Solomon, in the famous song, that he sang to his mother, Eshes Chayil, Song of Songs. So it says over there, a verse says like this: Noida b'sharim baila, which means he was known in the gates by all the people. But in Zohar, what does the Zohar explain this? What does it explain in Kabbalah? That ultimately, every single person knows to the core who their, so to speak, teacher is. Everyone knows what their unique relationship with God is. In other words, like this: there's not one size fits all. Everybody has their unique voice, but more importantly, their unique relationship with God. One person, their relationship is through the right, one person to the left, one person in the middle, one person from the back, whatever it may be. The point is, everyone has their unique relationship with God. And that's what's unique about Tanya versus other books. When you study Tanya, it says you're not going to find question, answer, question, answer. You're going to have the infrastructure of who you are. And we're going to get into, for example, the Sefirot and so on and so on as we progress. And then you're going to be able to see, is this speaking to me or is this speaking to me? And you'll be able to find the answers providing you have the questions. So as long as you have the right questions, you're going to find the answers. What is the basic question? The basic question is simple. How do I develop a deep and meaningful relationship with God? One that will allow me to live a beautiful, happy life. Once you ask that question, and you keep on asking that question, guess what? You'll find different ways that will lead you to the same place, which will be a place that you'll have a relationship with God with joy. That means when you pray and you study, you're not going to function as a functioning human being, opening a book and reading words. That's the function of prayer. But when you pray, you're going to pray with feeling God in the prayer service. And you're going to be happy about it. When you study, peaceful and joyful. When you study Torah, you're not going to be, okay, getting data. What does this one say? What does that one say? Whatever the subject matter is. Yeah, true, it's about data, information. But more importantly, when you study, you're going to feel God in the study. And more importantly, you're going to feel the joy. When you do a mitzvah, you're not just going to go ahead and do a good deed. You're going to actually connect to God by doing that mitzvah. You're going to be doing what God wants, and you're going to feel that relationship, and you're going to be joyful about it. But how can you do that? If you get to know who you are, your spiritual DNA, see what's working, what's strong, see what's strong and that should be built up, see what's strong and that needs to be like toned down a little bit, and to create ultimately your unique fit that will allow you to have a deep, meaningful relationship with God that's done with joy. And as time changes and things changes, go back to the drawing board. Matter of fact, how often should you go back to the drawing board? Every day. Every day. That's why we pray every single day. That's why we meditate before prayers. Sometimes every hour. But always going back and checking in. So we pray in the morning, pray in the afternoon, pray in the evening. And matter of fact, every single night before you go to sleep, you think about your day, the Shema, think about how you behaved, words that came out of your mouth. Were they kind? Were they compassionate? Were they too strict and too judgmental? And as long as you do it every night, every morning, maybe in the afternoon, guess what? You'll keep on refining yourself and you'll be a shining human being. Look what happens to a diamond or silver or gold that you don't polish it. What happens? It tarnishes, it loses the shine. So if you want to shine, you got to polish. The more you polish, the more it's going to shine.